Today we are honored to welcome Dr. Choong Lee, a distinguished professor at Korea University and a leading expert in macroeconomics, monetary finance, and econometrics. With an extensive background in analyzing Korea's remarkable transformation from a low income economy to a globally recognized economic powerhouse, Dr. Lee brings a wealth of knowledge to the subject of development and policy. His insights have guided scholars, policymakers, and international organizations alike. In his lecture, What Does the Development Experience of Korea Mean to the Developing Countries? Dr. Lee will explore the key factors behind Korea's success and its implications for other nations on their own development journeys. So, without further ado, let me invite him to the podium. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Lee.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Choong Lee. These Westerners of the other people, it's very difficult to pronounce Choong, so I just call Choong Lee, that's fine. And first of all, I introduce myself. I'd like to advertise myself in front of the guest guys here. And it's very honor, actually, speak my ideas in front of the very guests, maybe diplomat and scholars like this here. So first thing is who is speaker I'm. The fact yesterday and today, I'm going to compare what was in Korea and today here, and during that time what happened, and next time what the meaning here. So these are the pictures of me in front of. Actually, this kind of suit is not fit for me here. Actually, this T-shirt is more, better than looks like this here. Like sometimes I sleep. This is some ruins of Cambodia, so that I was too sleepy, so that I just sleep. Actually, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning here. So who's the speaker? I'm the econometrician. Sometimes I speak one-year banking, and this is a thing I teach in the classroom at graduate courses. But I wrote a lot of books on the consultation project for these developing countries. And these are the things, common things, but look at this. I have to some researches and consulting, say like central banks of countries. ASEAN 10 countries is here, say like Sri Lanka, Nepal, Kyrgyzstan, Emirate, Algeria, Tunisia, Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, Rwanda, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Ukraine. These are the countries I make a project, but there are countries which I only visited here. So these are the places I make a project and visited. So whenever I go to this country, I try to introduce Korea. But in classroom in my countries, I try to explain these countries too. So I'm a diplomat for the Korea's diplomat in the developing country and other countries, but diplomat of these countries is in Korea, because most of the Korean students and young people have no experiences of these maybe Central American country or African country or Middle East like that. So that I try to explain in both sides. Sometimes it's like a bet. So that in this way, I try to explain Korea. In that way, I try to explain in other countries. This is what I'm doing here. So the first thing I like to say, that Korea shared a common experience with many developing countries. Then you may have asked, what's the experience of developing country? What's the fact? Truth is, this is here. We have experienced traditional kingdom for a long time. The Goryeo Joseon dynasty from 1392 to 1910, Goryeo dynasty from 918 to 1392. That is quite thing for the most of the countries. Say like even the European high-income countries, they also experience the kingdom. But remember, the important one is that when the Korea was open and to the Western civilization or maybe European country or America, is 1872. Quite late. Look at this. The Alexander the Great came to the India in BCE 325. Calicut, Vasco da Gama came to the Calicut in 1498. Japan, Nagasaki was opened in the 1571. And look at this, Christopher Columbus reached the 1492. The Inca Empire collapsed in 1572. In other words, most of all around the world, they met the modern European civilization in maybe 15th, 16th, 17th centuries. But Korea, quite late, very late for the 1876, which means that we are very late starter. But if you're looking at around here, every building is quite modern and new. That means we are very fast catch-up. That's what I'm saying here. And here's we have experienced a colony. Remember that we are colony from 1910 to 1945. This is a map of the colony in before the World War II in 1936. Korea was a colony of Japan here. Look at this. The pink one maybe goes to the UK colony. The blue one is a France colony. Maybe like green one is a Portuguese colony. This US colony is in the Philippines too, and Dutch colonies in here. Other countries like this, which means that most of the developing country complained that they were having trouble because they were formerly colony of the developing the European country, and actually they make a lot of bad things. So Korea was experiences that. That's true here, and so that we understand the problem of the colony very well because we were formerly colony of Japan here. And also lots of developing countries complain that here they have a political problem, they have a civil war. Like Korea did in Korean War from 1950 to 53. Look at this lady, I think that she's about 13 or 14 years old, maybe today, about 85 or something here, 90 years old here. Oh, look at this, here, believe it or not, this is a Seoul Namdaemun Gate is right over there. And most of the buildings over there, right now, if you go there are high-story buildings there, but most of the building in 1950s is destroyed by the bombing here. That was a fact, so that we have experienced the civil war like any other, most of the developing country experiences here. And we have a dictatorial regime, right? So a lot of countries say that here, developing country has a problem with the governances. So then maybe there was a dictator, he ruled it very brutally. Actually, we did it here. In 1960s, look at this tank and people's over there. People try to protest themselves against for the dictatorship. This is 1980s Gwangju here. The policemen, the soldiers, try to beat the protesters. That was at the time I was in the junior of the university here. That was 1987. A young person, the man, he's a Yonsei University student. He was killed during this protest here. So that we have experienced this dictator quite a long time before 1990. So I'm trying to say that these are the common things that the developing country has experiences even today or past here. So that Korea shared a lot of things together here. So that we understand the feeling of the people of the developing country today here. Because I have experienced all these things, I am the witness to this thing here. Okay, in conclusion, Korea showed a problem of the poverty and targeted political social system after liberalization in 1945, which is similar thing. And most of the colony areas is Asia, Africa, they have an independence after World War II. We did a similar thing. So the compare two cases in 1952. These are the pictures in color picture. These are the Seoul here. So this is in front of the Seoul around this Gwanghwamun area. Everything was destroyed by bombing. And these are the young boys and girls who were standing on the line to get the food, actually. It was taken by the pictures of American soldiers. The American GI was at the time, he was working during the week time, and during the Sunday, he was a very religious Christian, so that during the Sunday morning, he would get out the camp and try to distribute some food to the boys and girls over there, right? And this is today here we have a high-story building and shopping mall. Everything was modern. So that these things to compare the big changes happened from 1950 to the 2024. So we may say about 70 years is the big changes happen here. So the people living in here cannot remember these places, but the people living in this place right now, he or she maybe about 9 years old, they remember here. That's the differences here. By the number, I'm an economist. Everything try to explain by the numbers. That's the advantage of me, but the other problem is that we have to relate it with these numbers with this fact here. This is a life, this is a number. So that whenever I'm looking at the numbers, I mean, every country provides statistics. So that I try to understand the economic situation of each country by looking at the number. Because I'm an economist, I try to do it. But behind that number, what happened? Those are the things I'm going to try to observe when I visited developing countries. I mean, advanced country too here. So right here, these are the facts when we have like the less than $100 GDP per year. then this is a fact here. $35,000 this is a fact here. So that we like to compare this thing, try to match this. Say, okay. So here's the GDP per capita for the average annual income of the people, person here, 1960s here. Why is it 1960? Because World Bank provided that data. The oldest one is 1960. So that I tried to figure out the 60s data and compare with the 2021. So 1960, believe it or not, Korea's GDP per capita is $79, which is about 30% of Senegal. So Senegal is quite popular in Korea because Senegal provides fish today. If you go to the shopping mall today, you can find Senegal, fishes. But people say that where are the Senegal? People don't know. And also, they don't know in Korean, they don't know that Senegal's GDP per capita was 3 times bigger than Korea's GDP in 1960s. And looking at Kenya and Ghana here, all these countries are far higher than Korea's GDP per capita. So that Korea was the lowest income country, all these 13 countries is. But 2021, Korea is the highest one here. So the question is, what happened for these years? Something is going on here, but we have to explain those things here based on this maybe economic theory. Here. That's what I'm going to do, and my job too here. So, and also not only for this economic data here, but also you can say the demonstration, how the people show their opinion. Looking at this is a way of 2016 here, people show their opinion. They go on the street right over there and show the candle. So that Korea became a more mature democratic society than 50s. Remember, these are the 21st century. This one is 20th centuries. Then what happened? I mean, that was quite the amazing thing. Any country can transform within 50 years with these brutal countries to the more civilized society here. Those are big changes happen, so that's why we have to look at the economy of Korea. I'm not a political scientist, but I don't want to go over all these things. But I like focus on the economics only here. So here's the World Democracy Index by country. Korea is called 8.03 in 2022, which is green. So the not well, but democratic society here. So the UK-based companies, the Economist Intelligence Unit, say that Korea belongs to this 80.0 to 9.0. So they're a mature country in society or political system. So the question we have, okay. So that if you show the two things here, economic development and political struggles and development, say that a lot of things happen. By the number, I would say that GDP per capita of Korea has increased a lot here. Although we have many crises here. But at the same time, we have liberalization, war, revolution, military coup d'etat, uprising, struggles, a lot of things happen here. So then, which is what I'm trying to say is that similar to the many developing countries right now. Some countries in Asia, some countries in Africa, some countries in Latin America, they have a similar problem like this. So that we do have this problem, but we overcome it. Well, that's one side. The other side is that we overcome these things and our economy is growing very well here. The interesting point is that we have a crisis like other countries. Say we have a crisis, the Asian financial crisis period, 1997 and 8, a global financial crisis, 2008 and 9, pandemic crisis. But interesting point is that whenever we have a crisis, GDP fall down. That's quite natural, but 2 years later we catch up, always. That's quite interesting point here. How Korea can able to catch up within 2 years. Generally, by the experience of data, past data, we said once a country is falling into a crisis, it usually takes 5 to 10 years to catch up with GDP. And during the 1980s Latin American crisis, during the Asian financial crisis, except Korea, like the Indonesia, Thailand, and they did similar experiences. And also the Turkish cases, they have a crisis when they catch up in year 2000, it takes more than 5 years. But in Korean case, look at this, could go jump up, and jump up here. So the quite interesting case, what happened to this thing? That's a very, very, very peculiar cases here. So the Korea has a very remarkable achievement, that's right here. And it increases, although we have some problems, and growth and political stability. It transforms its economy from low-income country to a high-income country for the relatively short time. Relatively short time means not 100 years. I would say maybe 60 years, I said. And it succeeded to build a more democratic and civilized country for a relatively short time, in 60 years. So that it is valuable, it is important to watch up these country cases. I mean, I'm very happy that this country is my country too here. So I would say that here. So what is the developing experience of Korea? This is the cases I'd like to introduce today here. Okay, Korea has a remarkable achievement, that's true. And one of the feasible development model here. If you're looking at the cases from 1945, the World War II ended here, many colony areas became developed and independent country. The question is that they have been, it's like everybody was started line in 1945, then debate gets long. It's like take a marathon here. If you like to take a marathon, like 10-kilometer marathon or 42-kilometer marathons, everybody stand on the line and begin to run. And when the pistol in the patch of the sounds are like bang here, then people began to run. I would say that in 1945, the World War II ended, most of the colony was liberated, then the race has begun. So that we have to begin with it. Then everybody run here. Some country run very fast, some country run very slow. I'm trying to say is that there's a country, Korea is obvious that run very fast. There are many other countries who run fast. Maybe if you go to Singapore, they are more richer than Korea. There are maybe Saudi Arabia, they are rich. Kuwait is more rich here, I would say. But Korea can be one of the model. Then can be said that here. That's what I'm saying here. One of the model, feasible model here, developing country can do. And I'm the scholar, so I try to explain in terms of a theory. Without theory, it is very difficult to explain, so that simple theories is very easy to understand here. We call it production function, but forget it. So I say that if you like to produce something, you have to have a human resources. Too obvious. People have to work, so that we have to have human resources. But right now we use a robot, but back in old days, human is the basic resources. Next thing is that we have to capital, machine. We have to machine infrastructures, a highway, maybe the airport, or maybe the machine and factory. Those are the things. And raw material, we have to have, like, if you like something here, we like to have maybe oil or maybe coal, and all those other things, maybe uranium here, those other things here. And technology, that's quite one of the important things. If you, maybe, back in maybe 1,000 years ago, we may not need the technology, but right now, everything depends on the technology here. So, and other things, the system here. Market competition, one of the other things is that in the global market, the lowest price is one and best product is sold. So there are two things that we have to make something based on these resources. Then we have to make the best product and also at a lower cost. These are the two conditions to survive in the global market. And also Korea did it for past 60 years is simply is that we produce something based on these resources and at the same time at a better quality at a lower cost. That's the top secret of the Korea's success. Very simple, but there's very important lessons here. Here we have technology, we have factory, human labor, and raw material and legal system. We make a car. So it's very simple. Everybody knows this theory, but unfortunately, it is not easy to implement all these facts in the real world. That's what I'm to say here. How difficult it was for Korea to build it. For example, legal system. Today's Korea is relatively a good, equipped legal system. But as I told you before, how can you get this kind of legal system and democratic system? Look at, if you go back to the thing, for 30 years, quite a long time, so many people, protested and working very well, then we have this. That's the thing here. Whenever you see the today's in Korea, it was not built a day. It was built by the sacrifice of so many people and effort here. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, here, amount of labor. We have a population here. We should have a population, so-called economically active, which means that used to be ages about 15 years old. If you have a younger people, then we have a more probability to have a higher income. That's the higher economic growth is that's the thing. Capital, we must have employment and investment and saving here. So why we have invest? We have to better future forecast. If you more optimistic, I mean, people are more optimistic, they want to make more investment. At the same time, important the savings here. If you more savings, more resources are available in the bank, and bank can provide more resources here. And the quality of technology, knowledge, skill, and education and researches. These are the facts, obviously. People have to work very hard and study hard. Those are the things. Raw material, natural resources. Unfortunately, Korea didn't have it. Therefore, we have to import it, these natural resources, for a long time. Cultural and social system, market economic system, and modernization, competitive system we do have here. So that these are the things I'm going to explain one by one now here. Most of country and people knew that, this simple fact. You know that here. I mean, if you take just Econ 100 and the first introductory economic courses, you know that here, but they didn't implement it. So many people, so many countries in the world did not implement it. There are lots of reasons is that here, then why here. Okay, as I told you before, Korea's GDP per capita has increased a lot. And these are the growth rate. Interesting point is look at this, 1960s and 70s and 80s and up to 1990s, growth rate is above the 9%. The average growth rate of those periods always above the 9%. So the economy is booming, always expanding and expanding. But we have a crisis from the second world shock, and we have a political turmoil in 1980s, and here Asian financial crisis period is negative. Pandemic crisis here and global financial crisis here. So that we have a little problem for each year, but we have to move in the country. But remember, it's falling down. Why is falling down? One of the reasons is this here. These are the number of economically active population, which is the uses 1,000. Population always grows. Like this. That means the young people are supplied continuously from 1960s. But remember, the growth rate is falling here. The people are more aged and thing is that newborn babies number is falling down. Therefore, economically active population growth rate is falling down. That's one of the reasons why the economic growth rate is falling down. So that one of the explain is that why we have a high growth rate in 1960s, 70s, and 80s. That continuously young boys and girls are born and they are supplied the labors. Therefore, the economy can grow. That's one of the things here. Another thing is the investment ratio of Korea and saving rate. Look at this. Korea investment is quite high. The world average is orange line, which is about 25%. For Korean cases, 35, sometimes 40s here. Then you may wonder how the Korea can make an investment about 40% of their GDP. That's quite wonderful, but interesting point. Look at their saving rate. Generally, traditionally, Korean people used to save a lot. Look at this. When they have extra income since the 1980s, they save more than 35%. This is like a cultural thing here. When I was a boy in girls, my father and my grandmother always pushed me to say that whenever you have money, you must save it. Not just me, my old generation has had a lesson say that here. You have something, whenever you have money, at least you should save some portion, 30 or 40% for your future. Without that, you may be in trouble. It may be related with the Korean War or maybe a colonial period like this. But one other thing is a clear thing is that Korea is a rice cropping country. What does this mean, rice cropping? In Korean cases, Korean farmers, looking at the traditional ways of Korean farming days, they used to begin to cultivate the land in March, and they make a seed the rice is about May here. They take the crop on the November, and October or November, which means that they work in 6 months or 7 months a year. They get the rices, and during the winter time, there's nothing to do. There's no, at the time, the greenhouses in Korea. Therefore, what the traditional Korean call me that here, whenever you have rices here in October, you have to keep the promise, save it until next October. But if you lose it, your family and you will lose your life for a year here. So it's very important the Koreans' life that always, whenever you have extra money, extra thing, you should keep it until for the rainy days. That's a cultural thing, but my father and mother, and maybe grandfather, always insisted saving rate. Even today here, even though Korea is a high-income country, saving rate is relatively high compared with other countries. It's quite other things compared with. And also change is industrial structure. Remember, believe it or not, when I was elementary school here, 50% of production of Korea was made by the agriculture, the farming here. So that Korea was traditionally agriculture-based society. But as time goes by, it's falling down. Currently, maybe 2 or 3% to GDP here. So instead, here we have a manufacturing industry is going on about 30%, service count of 60%. So that all days, not all days, maybe 60 or 60 years ago, always main industry of Korea was farming, and Korea, most of the farmers is. Think that here Korea's New Year days, of lunar calendar New Year days is, or Korea's seasonal maybe Thanksgiving day like Chuseok here during the time. Why so many people go to the countryside is? They go to their hometown. Why the Korean people are living in the hometown that's 40 years old? Because most of them are from the farming areas is. They used to go to farming area to the urban area like here. So that during that time here, maybe they're right now the old people, maybe their grandfather and father are still living in there. Therefore, they have to go there during these New Year days or maybe Chuseok area, Thanksgiving days. So that Korea is formally is agriculture-based society, and farmers are also relatively rich. In other words, if you are a farmer, you don't have the problem with the food supply. At least, you can have rice 3 times a day. That's a big advantage of farmers is here. So that, but as the times go by here, the farming industry falling down. So that 1965, 65% of Korean people are farmers. Is only 35% are either in service industry or manufacturing industry. So there have been transform happen. So the big changes happen in this society. How could it be possible? You can see the next pictures. And these are the production of manufacturing industry by sectors. It's 100 in 1960. Remember, 36.5% of total manufacturing product is a food industry here, like food or like the can industry, food or milling industry like this. And textiles count about 25. So the total production of manufacturing industry in 1960 was 60% is two counted here. But right now in 2023, it's less than 10% here. So what was the other industry you did? Look at this. Here's the computer industry, maybe 23%. Electronic equipment, say like 6.7. Machinery, 8.9. Transportation, including car, 12%. So it includes like more than 70% here. What happened to this Korea from the big changes in processing industry to this like computer industry here? And you can say one of the important thing is the thing here. The workers is 1960s, she is making wig. Believe it or not, the 1970s here, the highest taxpayer paid person in Korea was a wig, the CEO of this wig company. He paid the largest income tax in Korea because he managed this wig company and he sold this wig to the United States at the time. But right now, the people working in this industry here. So the Korean workers transformed themselves from the manual workers to the technicians. How could it be possible? That was the secret of the things, employment. Korea also emphasized the education. I mean, the government emphasized at the same time, people also at the same time. Even in the 1960s, why we have 1969? Because I don't have a data. Well before the 1969, almost 105% of people entered the elementary school. How is 105? Because at the time, some people in rural area could not have a chance to go to the elementary school, even if his age is higher. So that maybe all the people have to go to school. So that it is about the 105. So that they entered it here. And secondary school, middle and high school go to the 40s in 96, the country catch up here. University catch up like too. In other words here, as the industry is developed further and further, income increases further and further, we need a new industry to develop, new sectors to develop, but happen to be well educated technicians are supplied by this education system. And here's a thing, the Korean word. That's a cultural thing. I mean, look at this. Look at this. These are the tent. That's what happened in the Korean wartime here. The Korean wartime, the school was destroyed here. Then how can you teach the students that even if you make a tent, people stand on the line and they teach it here. Here's the school teachers in some areas is over here. Look at this. The school buildings are destroyed but she's going to teach here with his textbook and with the students and like this. We may say that the quality of education at the time may be very poor compared with today's using computers and everything, very, very poor. But remember things that young boys and girls is every day they go to school, they learn something from their teachers is, they observe they knew how to keep the rules and law and orders is, these are the things they learn from their scholars and their teachers is that. Without building, they have the classes on the school of tent or in the open ground. Look at this. This is the money here in Korea. I like to have this kind of money. I love to. But remember, who is this person? Anybody know this person? 1,001. This was printed in quite a long time ago. 5,001, quite a long time ago. 10,000 and 50,001 here. Who is this person here? These are the 10,001. What are the others? These are the people, famous scholars in Korea. During this Joseon dynasty, there are two famous great scholars in Confucianism was known. We know that every Korean knew that these are the two scholars here. Yi and Yi Hwang. These are the scholars famous in middle of the 16th century in Korea. So why they put these faces in here? Look at this. Why the George Washington in the American dollar is? Why the Mao Zedong is in the Renminbi here, in Chinese yuan here? Because they think that if they printed this person's faces on the money here, there is no argument. If somebody is making argument, I don't like this, or this person is not appropriated to represent this country, they would not printed it here. But why this thing here? Not just a founder of this country, but the president or the king. Instead of we think that here, if most of the Korean people think that if the Bank of Korea printed these great scholars' faces here, nobody can complain because we respect them. We don't know actually what kind of their theory, Confucianism theory suggested. We don't know actually, but we all know that here great scholars should be respected here. So they put it here. And also King Sejong here, he's very famous, wise king. At the same time, he was a great scholar too. And also, who is the little lady? He's the mother of the great scholar. When the central bank is trying to print this money, 5,000 won about 20 years ago here, they have to find the ladies here. Who is the great lady? Maybe the ladies of this man here, the mother of this man here. So the great scholars' mother is deserved maybe the faces on this thing here. So there's a cultural thing that we related 1,000 years is we have respected, and not 1,000 years is after modern days is we have show the great respect to the very talented scholars. And that's why related with everybody, push their children to go to the school even during the 10th period of the wartime, and also people have to go to the elementary school and middle school and high school here. So that's a little cultural thing I would say here. These are the ratio of R&D expenditure of Korea. As we look at this year, 2020s, we are around less than 5%. But in the Europe here, other country, maybe high-income country, their ratio less than 2.5. But we are double of the R&D expenditure. And last year, this president here, tried to reduce this R&D expenditure. Actually, they did it. Then there was a big, protests came from not only for the scholars, but also for the people here. If we reduce this R&D expenditure, how can you secure our future? People, they complain that if anybody complain with their social security benefit and anything like that, only that group of people are complaining. But in this case, R&D cases, actually, if the R&D expenditure is done, it is that money is going to the only scholars. But people on the street complain when the R&D expenditure falling down last year. A lot of people, even though they have no related with the R&D expenditure, they complain that if we reduce this expenditure, we cannot secure our future. So that's the other thing here. And also, global value chain is Korea like to globalization succeeded. Believe it or not, 1960s here, the trade, we call it trade openness indexes, which means that export plus import divided by GDP ratio, which is very 20%, very low, which means that Korea was a relatively closed country. So because at this time, we opened the country in 1876. Therefore, and later we became a colony. Therefore, we used to be closed country, but right now it's a completely open country. So the Korean peoples are very, very open-minded and try to do with foreigners a lot. Unfortunately, before the 1960s and 70s, we were not. But after, we transform ourselves to be open-minded, work with the foreigners. And also, we are in the middle of the success at this time here. And here's a crisis cases here. Believe me, lots of people say that there was a crisis in Korea in 1997. But we know that here, most of people don't know how serious it is. And during that time, I was working in the Korea Institute of Finance, which is an institution which is in charge of the Korea's economic policies and financial policies and like this. At the time, I was a research fellow over there. I tried to contact with the Korean government at the time almost every day. Why? I was involved with those jobs here. And about October 22, maybe, the $1 was about 901. But 2 months later, it's 1964. So the value of Korean won decreased by maybe 60% within 2 months. And the value of dollar increased by maybe 60% within this year, within these 2 months. That was a crisis. So we have experiences. Lots of scholars from developing countries who have in the process of crisis try to explain their economy here. Sometimes a certain country was in crisis. They told me that their economy is in crisis. Exchange rate changes a lot. Interest rate changes a lot. They have to work with the IMF. They complain a lot, and they said here they try to explain. Then whenever I show this graph, I said, okay, I fully understand what you are talking here. Because at the time, I was in the middle of the during crisis. I was in charge of the exchange market in Korea in the research institute. So I try to explain those things because I fully understand that this is what we did after the crisis and try to do one by one here. So we call it crisis. So that during this crisis, after crisis 1998, look at this. Before the crisis, the growth rate was 6%. Just 1 year later, it goes minus 5.1, which means that plus 6 to the minus 5 point, it has decreased by 10%. So we call it crisis. We have a very hard time. We all know that here. So that I fully understand the problem of the developing country whenever we have a crisis here. Okay, there was a gold collecting campaign. Oh, okay, I'll say it here. This is news from Al Jazeera.
Display of sacrifice and patriotism. Hit hard by the Asian financial crisis, South Korea's government asked the IMF for a $58 billion bailout, and the country wasted no time getting to work on paying it back. Millions donated precious family heirlooms to be melted into gold bars. Park Jung-hee was one of them.
I didn't hesitate to donate gold rings I got for my children's first birthdays and gold bands I got for my wedding. I was ready to give those up if it was going to help my country overcome the crisis.
As a financial crisis swept the region, it became clear South Korea had built up crippling foreign debt. Imports exceeded exports by more than $20 billion. It was a shock for a population that had been enjoying a booming economy just the year before.
Millions of people have been fired, and a lot of, especially in the financial area, a number of small banks has to close down.
The gold went some way to helping, even if largely psychologically, and thanks to economic restructuring and currency movements, South Korea bounced back, repaying its debt to the IMF in about 3 years.
Today, this country is often held up as an economic success story. The booming stock market, a sign of investor confidence, especially in companies.
Okay, I'm going to stop it, but I'd like to explain. The important one is the next slide. Yes. Okay, so that's called gold collecting campaign because we don't have a foreign reserve. If you have some gold, we can sell the gold. Gold is like international money. We can have a US dollar, then we can secure our economy. That's a very simple thing here. But the first campaign, that kind of idea is not came from the economy. It's not came from the government officer. It is a Korea Women's Association here. quite surprising thing. One of the ladies in Korean Women's Association get the idea. Okay, if you collect the gold and maybe sell to the foreign, then we can secure the dollars. Because if we have a problem with the export, therefore we can sell the export to the gold. Actually, gold is existing here, so we sell it. That was a simple idea. It came from the Korean Women's Association, and they have nothing to do with the Korean government or Korean economists here. So that Korean Women's Association have all branches all around the world. Simply they did it and they try to give orders. They said, okay, they give a notice that okay, we will make this kind of program. We'll collect the gold and maybe sell it. And at the first meeting, about 350 people participated and collected 130 million won, about 10,000 US dollars. It's very small here compared with the total economic size of Korea. But what happened in the next thing is KBS. Korea Broadcasting Company and Korea Housing Bank make this national gold campaign from January 5th of 1998, 1 year, and it became popular. Therefore, NBC, second bankrupt, they did it January 12, and SBS did January 13. They participated in several banks here, and they collected a lot here, actually. Total 213 tons of gold are collected. Actually, they began to able to sell it here. It's kind of representing national unity. What happened in the London market was this. Look at this. The 1997, the gold prices in London market used to be 300, but after February, it's falling down because the Korean tried to sell this gold in the London market at the same time. So this is what happened in the actual world here. Since then, most Koreans did not carry the gold as before. That's true here. One of the old customs of Korea is that whenever a baby was born, and the baby became 100 days or baby became 1 year old, it's a custom that relatives and friends a gift of the small gold rings. That was a Korea tradition. It's quite a long time tradition here. But after this gold collecting campaign, it stopped it. I mean, today we didn't do it because gold is too expensive. But before that, after 1998 crisis, we stopped. That means we change our custom and traditions after this crisis thing here. So what does this Korea's experiences mean is this here? Korea's crisis success is not unique in the world history. So many countries has developed. We know that here. But this is one of the rare examples that a low-income country transformed into a high-income country a relatively short time at the same time. Yeah? They didn't do anything with the natural resources. They didn't do anything invading other countries. That's quite common, the rare thing in the modern century. Maybe in Mongolian cases, for example, 12th centuries, they invaded other country and collected something here. Maybe European did it, maybe 18th century, 19th century, even 20th century, they did it here. In the Korean cases, we didn't make any war, we didn't invade anything, we don't sell any natural resources, but we did it here. So it's one of the rare examples here. It gives one of the models of Korean economic growth in 21st century, so that any developing country can take this thing here. It's also true that Korea has many problems. That's right here. We have some aging society, young people don't want to marry, the number of children is going down. That's a lot of problems we do have. But still, we do have proud of this, what we have achieved here. These are the important ones, like I said. Korea is willing to share its experiences. Actually, I did it here for past 20 years. Moving around all around the world, try to give some lessons and experience of Korea to the other countries. As I told you in the map, the first cases, I showed the many map. I visited many countries and make a consultation. Particularly, I speak in the banking and financial industry. Therefore, how to banking and financial regulation or bank financial inclusion should be improved. This is what I'm doing here. So Korea's ODA frames are a little different from those other countries because like the US cases or China or maybe Germany, they are relatively big country. They are important, their job is related with infrastructure building and big project here. But Korea is a relatively small country, like 50,000 population, small 100,000 square kilometers of land. Therefore, we cannot do a hardware project here, but we are going to focus on this training, education program, or maybe cultural program, other things we're going to focus. Actually, we did it here. Remember, Korea is a small country, and big country, China or other European countries, so that we like to focus on the software and other things. And if I go to the maybe developing country, say like any other country here, say there's a bridges, very important. Bridge is important because both sides of the bank can freely, working around because they have a bridges here. But in Korean cases, we cannot build the bridges because we don't have such money here. But we cannot bridges the people by the maybe ICT techniques or maybe communication tools instead. What you can provide is used to be related to software rather than hardware. Therefore, Korea's outcome of this ODA program or related program may not be observable. However, we try to teach them what we have learned, so that we are focusing on the software rather than hardware. So that I like, you're also many diplomats from different countries here, try to ask many software programs to the Korean government, and Korean government are willing to do it. Okay, I think so. I had to speak everything I like to do, then I may have received a question from you here. I would say honestly from my experiences.
It's always good to see the Societas Koreana lecture series have such active and engaging audience, but we are a little behind the schedule, and as Mr. Lee said, Dr. Lee said, we're always a little hungry for food. So let me wrap up today's lecture. As Dr. Lee said and demonstrated throughout the lecture, Korea and Koreans are survivors who wish for a better tomorrow than today and struggle to make that wish come true through investment, education, and hard working. So I have no doubt Korea and Koreans will overcome the challenges we are facing today. And if we can, our global neighbors can, as Dr. Lee mentioned. So thank you, Dr. Lee. Let's give him a big hand again.